What would you do if everything you knew about time was wrong? What if the past, present, and future were just parts of an infinite cycle, where we are trapped, repeating the same moments without realizing it? Today, we're going to dive into a theory that could radically transform your view of reality. We'll explore how science and spirituality may be more intertwined than we realize, questioning whether we really have free will or whether we're just following a predetermined script. Get ready to reevaluate your own notion of time by learning what renowned scientists and ancient spiritual teachings have to say about the cyclical nature of the universe. Grab a cup of coffee, leave your like, and subscribe to the channel, because this journey will challenge your deepest convictions. Shall we go together? The Great Illusion of Time. What science and philosophy reveal. Imagine that everything we understand as time is just a human perception, a concept we've developed to organize events in a linear fashion. Modern science, especially physics, has been challenging this traditional notion of time for decades. Albert Einstein was a pioneer in suggesting that time is not a universal constant, but a relative phenomenon, something that expands and contracts depending on speed and gravity. His famous theory of general relativity demonstrates that instead of a straight line, time is more like a fourth dimension, flexible and intertwined with space. This implies that the past, present, and future coexist simultaneously, but only our perception makes us experience one moment at a time. However, this view of time can also be found in Eastern philosophies, which for millennia have described reality in a cyclical and interconnected way. In Buddhism and Hinduism, time is seen as part of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, where beings are constantly relearning and readjusting their actions and karmas. These traditions teach that as long as our mind is stuck in a limited understanding, we will continue to live within a stream of illusions. If we unite these ancient philosophies with the modern view of physics, a surprising picture emerges. A reality where events are not fixed and linear, but malleable and interwoven in an infinite network of cause and effect. This opens up a new perspective. What if what we perceive as a timeline was actually a repetitive cycle? Or what if our own thoughts and perceptions were responsible for shaping the nature of time? Reliving the same life. The temporal loop theory. If the idea of cyclical time sounds intriguing, get ready for an even more thought-provoking theory, the time loop. According to theoretical physicist John Wheeler, the universe is participatory, meaning that it doesn't fully manifest itself until human consciousness observes it. Wheeler argues that the act of observation not only influences the present, but can shape the past and even the future, creating a continuous flow of reality in which time is shaped by our perception. This concept, although challenging, gains support from quantum experiments that reveal how the observer's choice affects the trajectory of subatomic particles. Thus, the idea that we are living in a time loop where we repeat the same events, perhaps even the same choices and experiences, begins to seem more plausible. If we really are in a loop, it would mean that what you do today, every decision and thought, not only shapes what is to come, but is also reflected in the past. This retroactive flow is like a script being cyclically followed. Your choices may seem free, but they have already been defined by previous versions of yourself, as if each life, each existence is an attempt to achieve a different result. In some spiritual traditions, this is also known as life lessons, where each cycle is an opportunity to learn and evolve. However, when considering the time loop, the fundamental question arises: how free are our choices really? Do we have the power to break this cycle, or are we doomed to repeat the same decisions for eternity? The theory of the time loop challenges us to consider whether there is a way out of this infinite repetition, or whether we are somehow trapped in this flow, eternally influencing and being influenced by time. Déjà vu and precognitive dreams. Breaches in the illusion of time. Déjà vu, that unsettling feeling of having experienced this before, challenges our understanding of time and reality. Scientists and psychologists often interpret it as a brain glitch, where the brain confuses new experiences with memories of the past. However, for many, déjà vu seems to be more than just a mental processing error. It fits in perfectly with the theory of the time loop, the idea that events repeat themselves indefinitely, and occasionally our consciousness is able to remember past experiences by reliving them in the present. When it occurs, déjà vu gives us the feeling that we are living a familiar experience, even though we have no memory of it, as if our mind briefly touched the edge of this time loop, allowing us to glimpse our own repetition in the flow of time. Similarly, precognitive dreams, those in which we dream of something that later comes true in frightening detail, can be indications that time is not a straight line. These dreams can be small leaks of future events that are already happening on a level that is not perceptible, but accessible to the unconscious. If past, present, and future coexist, these phenomena suggest that our mind could, under certain conditions, travel to different points in the cycle, accessing information from a future version of ourselves. The concept of precognitive dreams, like déjà vu, leads us to question whether these experiences are gaps in the illusion of linear time, and even more so, whether our consciousness possesses a depth beyond the here and now, with the ability to touch fragments of a reality where all the possibilities of time meet. Quantum physics, revelations on the flexibility of time. Quantum physics, one of the most mysterious and paradoxical fields of modern science, offers us clues about the true nature of time. In experiments such as Wheeler's delayed choice, it has been observed that decisions made in the present can have an impact on the past. This experiment demonstrates that the behavior of subatomic particles is affected by the observer, even after the event has already occurred. This discovery suggests that time is not just a fixed sequence of events, but a flexible and malleable fabric, which shapes itself in response to our consciousness and decisions. The idea that a present choice can alter the past challenges our understanding of cause and effect, suggesting that time may actually be a cycle where actions and consequences intertwine in multiple directions. Another fascinating concept in quantum physics is entanglement. This phenomenon occurs when two particles, even separated by vast distances, remain interconnected and respond instantaneously to each other, completely ignoring the limitations of time and space. This implies that time may not be a barrier to influence between events, revealing a possible interconnection between past and future that transcends the linear timeline. When we apply this concept to our own existence, it leads us to reflect on whether our actions, thoughts, and choices might also be similarly entangled in a cycle that reverberates in all temporal directions. This brings us closer to the idea of an interdependent and circular time, where each choice is a link that unites past, present, and future in a single network of deep interconnections. Black holes and wormholes, exploring temporal distortions. Black holes are considered the most extreme laboratories in the universe for exploring time. At their edge, called the event horizon, gravity becomes so intense that even light is trapped, unable to escape. As any object, be it a star or a speck of dust, approaches this boundary, time for that object begins to slow down from the point of view of an outside observer. To a distant observer, the object appears to move more and more slowly, as if frozen in time. This phenomenon suggests that time, under extreme gravitational forces, can literally be stretched until it almost stops, leading some scientists to question whether, by crossing the singularity, it would be possible to access other moments in time or parallel universes. Wormholes are a theoretical extrapolation of this idea. These hypothetical tunnels would connect distant points in space-time, and although they have not yet been observed, scientists speculate that if they exist, They could allow transportation between different regions of the universe, perhaps even between different moments in time. This concept further challenges our notion of linear time. If wormholes are real, they could act as shortcuts to the future or the past, enabling time travel and potentially a way of escaping the time cycle to which we believe we are subject. In this context, black holes and wormholes suggest that reality may be full of portals and distortions that escape our current understanding, revealing that time may be a moldable prison, capable of being manipulated under extreme conditions. Samsara and the cycle of time. What Eastern traditions teach us. Eastern traditions have long approached time as a cycle of endless repetition, a concept essential to Hinduism and Buddhism. At the heart of these beliefs is samsara, an incessant cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth, where human beings are trapped, repeating patterns until they reach enlightenment. This cycle is driven by karma, the law that connects past actions with future experiences, suggesting that each life is a continuation of the previous one. For these traditions, time is not a straight line towards an end, but a wheel where every action generates a reaction, and every learning is essential for liberation. This cycle can only be broken by reaching a state of consciousness that transcends the illusion of the I and material possessions, leading to spiritual liberation known as moksha in Hinduism or nirvana in Buddhism. The idea of samsara dialogues strongly with modern theories of the time loop, where beings are condemned to relive the same situations until they awaken to a new understanding. In samsara, repetition is not a punishment, but a continuous opportunity for growth and spiritual evolution. Thus, both the time loop and samsara propose that we are in a cycle to learn and overcome our inner limitations. If we look at these traditions, we realize that the answer to getting out of the cycle may not lie in trying to physically escape, but in transforming one's own perception. By developing a full and detached consciousness, we can, according to these beliefs, free ourselves from the prison of cyclical time, achieving a state of peace and enlightenment. The resonance between these ancient philosophies and modern scientific theories suggests that the key to understanding time may lie in both self-knowledge and scientific exploration, both paths that point to the same interconnected truth. Breaking the cycle with full consciousness, meditation, and the awakening of time. The idea that we can break a time cycle through mindfulness is not only a spiritual hypothesis, but also a practice that is gaining scientific support. Meditation, particularly mindfulness, teaches us to perceive the present without the distractions of expectations or memories of the past. This state of attention allows us to recognize patterns of thoughts and emotions that can repeat themselves automatically, i.e., the emotional and mental cycles that keep us stuck in internal loops. By interrupting these automatic reactions with meditation practice, we create a space for new choices and conscious responses, breaking the repetitive cycle of automatic behaviors that, according to some spiritual and psychological views, form the bonds of our temporal imprisonment. The lucid dream state offers a fascinating metaphor for this liberation. In it, the dreamer realizes that he or she is dreaming, and with this awareness, acquires the ability to control the events in the dream. This type of practice, which requires a lot of discipline and self-knowledge, suggests that consciousness can become so powerful as to manipulate one's own perception of time and space. When lucid dreaming is mastered, time within the dream can be lengthened or shortened, as if the dreamer were outside of linear time. This leads us to reflect on whether the expansion of full consciousness, even outside the sleep state, could not have similar effects on our waking life experience, allowing us psychological and perhaps even existential freedom from the repetitive cycle. Thus, practices such as meditation and lucid dreaming are not just methods of self-knowledge, but paths towards a deeper freedom, a possible means of escaping the eternal cycle, both in a spiritual and temporal sense. Here we explore a series of ideas that challenge everything we think we know about time and reality. Science and spirituality, rather than being poles apart, seem increasingly intertwined when it comes to the nature of the universe. If we really are trapped in an eternal cycle, the answers may lie as much in scientific experiments as in ancient spiritual practices. But one thing is certain: the real power lies in our perception. So, if this journey resonated with you, like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the mysteries of reality. After all, the more we look beyond the surface, the more we realize how deep this illusion can be. See you in our next video.